I don't understand. The human ambassador, Lena Caldwell, furrowed her brow in confusion. She flashed a tight smile, trying to keep the tension at bay. The Supreme Counselor of the Interstellar Conclave rumbled deeply, his crests flaring in agitation before repeating himself. The Galactic War. You were not meant to emerge victorious. Lena's eyes widened as realization dawned. Was there an error in your analyst's projections? I'm afraid I don't follow. A wave of murmurs swept through the assembled delegates. Voices blended as species conversed, while Lena stood in the center, utterly oblivious to what her race had accomplished. Order, order in the chamber. The Supreme Counselor's booming voice cut through the din. His mandibles clicked rapidly as he leaned forward. Human, do you comprehend the ramifications of your actions? Ah, I see now. Lena nodded slowly, the truth finally sinking in. She let out a mirthless chuckle. My apologies, we did not intend to disrupt the balance of power in this region. However, our hand was forced by the K'arathiv sovereignty's ultimatum. The murmurs grew louder, a dull roar reverberating through the hall until the Supreme Counselor could no longer tolerate it. How could this human be so blind? You fool, he bellowed, no longer attempting to silence the crowds. A relativistic war has no true victor. That is the entire premise. I understand the concept, Lena replied evenly. A low chuckle rumbled in her chest as she leaned back, lips curling into that unsettling human smile to reveal her teeth. The conclave was reminded of humanity's dark, predatory origins. Quite well, in fact. Do you? The Supreme Counselor asked skeptically, giving her a chance to explain herself. I do, Lena stated, her piercing gaze boring into him. Leaning forward, she gripped the podium tightly. Earth apologizes for the tremendous loss of life. However, she could not accept living in perpetual fear as a viable alternative. The Supreme Counselor's claws dug into the solid stone desk as his fury built. That fearful end is now the grim reality we all face because of you. Earth held no quarrel with the Conclave, Lena retorted, straightening up. This war was solely between us and the K'arathiv. Yet in achieving this victory, you have upended the cosmos, the Supreme Counselor said, his breathing ragged as he reined in his temper. Relativistic weapons are the great equalizers. The loss of an entire inhabited world to such power would be cataclysmic. Lena arched an eyebrow. Catastrophic, perhaps, but far from existential for a power like Earth. You dare. Yes, I dare speak truth. The Supreme Counselor fell silent as the human cut him off. If you want peace, prepare for war. Is that not the doctrine the Conclave operates under? Lena looked around, receiving nods of affirmation. Evidently, it is a lie. The Supreme Counselor pressed her. Is that so? It is, Lena stated firmly. When the K'arathiv demanded we cede our colonies in the Armstrong cluster or face annihilation from their relativistic arsenal, the expectation was our submission. Both from them and this conclave, correct? Indeed, the Supreme Counselor replied carefully. It was the logical choice. Their relativistic stockpile dwarfed your own, sufficient to wipe out 3/4 of your territories. The numbers did not lie. No, the numbers told a different story, Lena countered. She stepped back from the podium, allowing a weighty silence to fall over the chamber as the delegates absorbed her words. Tell me, how much of our relativistic arsenal should be depleted after such a campaign? 90% at minimum, the Supreme Counselor answered without hesitation. There is no other outcome. Incorrect. Lena shook her head. It was closer to half. Another swell of murmurs and incredulous responses filled the hall. The Supreme Counselor paled. Impossible. Quite possible. Our relativistic warheads are multiple-pronged, each able to strike numerous targets simultaneously. We thought you were bluffing. Why would we jeopardize Earth's survival on a bluff? Lena asked pointedly. The K'arathiv invited a war that threatened our very existence, unless we accepted unconscionable terms. So we struck first, before their fleets could sortie or arm their weapons. What is so difficult to grasp? A heavy silence descended as the weight of her words settled over the gathered delegates. Finally, Lena spoke again, realization clear in her voice. None of you truly grasped the concept of relativistic warfare. You simply assumed it meant mutual destruction. The Supreme Counselor said nothing, disliking her implication. Ah, I see now, Lena continued solemnly. You viewed possession of such weapons as an adequate deterrent in itself. That is a fundamental error. On Earth, the prime tenet is to always assume deterrence will fail. I beg your pardon, the Supreme Counselor stammered. It's quite simple. That dangerous smile returned to Lena's face. When Earth prepares for war, she does far more than prepare to fight. A tense pause. She prepares to win at any cost.